G'day, Mark Wallace from G50 Corp. I'm the MD and we're currently exploring our new precious metals discovery, Golconda, in Arizona, and working on our new gold antimony project in Whitecaps in Nevada. Good question. So for me, I grew up in Kalgoorlie, and while not technical, been around a lot of technical people. And so sometimes it's just keep things nice and simple in exploration. And so that would be, we're not spoilt for choice in Australia, like ore bodies just don't stick out of the ground. So a good starting point has been, are we drilling alongside, underneath or near historical mine production? And so the modern thinking is not just that, it's a variation of, can we do like non-intrusive sort of work, whether it's geochem, geophysics, satellite imagery. And so there's a whole vast database of knowledge that we've learned by necessity in Australia for exploring for new projects and new discoveries. In the US, we find that there hasn't been a lot of support for domestic mining in the last 40, 50 years. And we think they're now starting a multi-decade program of reshoring both exploration and domestic mining. And so the hidden gems is effectively, there's a lot of, we think, opportunity in the US. The two best states, Arizona and Nevada, and that's by the Fraser Institute as well, so don't take our word for it. But there's a really good opportunity that in a search space environment, if you don't limit yourself by anything than just endowment, then the US largely has been underexplored for the last 50 to 60 years. And so we just take some of the aggressive approach that we've learnt in the last 20 years in Australia, and we're just bringing it to the US. So building on the momentum of 2025, so at Golconda, we made a significant precious metals discovery, and that was on top of and supporting the continuing good exploration results for the gallium as well and the strategic metals. So the next 6 months at Golconda is specifically testing for continuity and depth extension to that discovery, and so that's with diamond drilling, or in the US we call it core drilling. And then we have an RC rig arriving in next month, and we're looking to test both strike and lateral extent as well. It's a big mineralised system, and we'd like to try and work out just how big it is. At Whitecaps, that's been in the portfolio probably about 2 years less than Golconda, and so we're still going through the gears on exploration phase there. And so following up an RC program from early 2025, and so the core rig from Golconda, we moved to Whitecaps, and we've got a 4 to 6 hole program there, and we're on the cusp of what we would say is pre-discovery at Whitecaps, and that's again precious metals. It's big, both really big, and so in the sense of the modern thinking hidden gems, culture of the business, we've taken our learnings from Western Australia and drilling around the world, brought it into North America. We've got these projects that have been in time capsules for 100 odd years, and so effectively drilling underneath and along strike old mines has been a great strategy in other parts of the world, and we've brought that here to Arizona specifically. So both projects have similar DNA, so lots of private property, patented claims, lots of what we would call artisanal or historical mining around both projects. And so what we've learned is that we're in big systems, and so that just means a lot more work. I think for the activity and for budget allocation and building on the discoveries at Golconda, so Arizona, predominantly for the next 6 months, the big opportunity for wow at both projects is sort of depth and strike extent at Golconda. Whitecaps, where we had some really good, interesting precious metal grades in the Whitecaps RC drilling, and these follow-up holes would be what we would call phase 2. And so we keep circling in and tightening up the exploration model, and so Whitecaps, from a very low base, could really wow as well. So both projects are really important for us. They're just in different phases of the discovery cycle. I think for us, it's the pathway to commercialisation. And so, drilling holes in the desert's good fun, but they need to come together for the broader mine building strategy. And so for us, there's multiple phases. So there would be some sort of maiden resource estimate at Golconda, that would be due this year. Aspirationally, calendar Q3, Q4, depending on the drilling and the results that come through. There's a lot of test work that's been going on the gallium. The gallium's really important. It's part of in the altered rock. It's part of the broader ore body, is what we would class it at Golconda. And so it's at surface, it's everywhere. So we need to form an opinion on that and the ability to monetize that. And we're really close to cracking the code there as well. So A really good question. So, gallium for us was brand new. In 2023, when we made the announcement of the discovery, we weren't quite sure what it meant. A lot of inbound inquiries 6 months following that announcement, and since then, has really helped us form an opinion that there are a lot of people out there who love gallium. They kind of need it a lot more than we understood or knew, and they've helped us form the pathway to commercialisation. So for us, it facilitates many things. It's an opportunity to monetize, so for early cash flow. Strategically, both the location, so we're literally in the shadows of head frames of a mine 1 kilometre away from us. We're in the northwest corner of Arizona, so we're really close to power, mine support structure, towns and so on. So there's a neat way for it to fit into domestic strategic metal supply, and that's not just defence and so on. There's a bigger market growing for gallium outside of defence, and we would like to be a part of the solution within the USA. Really good question, very interesting. For us, we're learning as we go. Currently, it's 75% of demand for gallium is for defence uses applications, so mostly radar technology. Fundamentally, gallium facilitates electron mobility, and so its uses are best for where you've got a lot of power consumption and mostly in the on position. And so when you start to broaden your search space on that basis, what industries and so on require lots of power and constantly on, then you start to see the ramifications. So you start looking at supporting telecommunications, so 5G, 6G technology, more recently data centers and hyperscalers. And there's a really good opportunity for gallium to replace both incumbent uses, like for silicon, and then growth going forward. So there's been some forward steps made by groups like Inner Science, Infineon, and Navitas out of the US, and they're partnering with NVIDIA to look at more holistic solutions on powering the next wave of data center build. There's a lot of silver in our system. We also have some indium. So the first commercial indium mine in the US is about 100 miles north of us. We do have indium in our system. It just hasn't been a major priority. And so for us, gold and gallium, silver, and then indium. And then we are in, proximal to a big porphyry, a copper moly silver porphyry mine called Mineral Park. The porphyries, the best place to find a new porphyry would be next to an existing one, and so we've got a pretty good jurisdiction. So we've got lots of claims. I'm not waving the flag here and saying we have one, but we're close to a historical porphyry mine, and so why not? We dare to dream. We'll know more. So on the basis that we can see the tub structure that runs through Golconda is it's part of a 20-kilometre long feature that runs through not just our property but the whole mountain range and the Sabat Mountains, and so that's provided the ability for the fluids, the nice hot fluids from below to come up, and then for the mineral deposit to be formed, as it's called, and the metals have dropped out. So big structural control. How confident are we? We've got 6 to 7 targets for the RC program coming up, and we're drilling underneath basically every hole. We're drilling underneath mineralised historical mines or exploration results. So I think for some people it's hard to fathom and understand. We've got 4 kilometres of strike of this tub zone. We're looking at a kilometre, 1 to 2 kilometre long strike, a kilometre wide, kilometre deep. There's lots of volume to this opportunity. For us, not much. I mean, at the end of the day, the saying I have is honour the project, honour the process. And so for us, Golconda really has to stand on its own 2 feet. What Mineral Park does, we've got history of mining, we've got history of sort of exploration, we've got a history of operating in a framework. And so it's better than trying to probably permit a greenfields project somewhere. And so we do have an opportunity to lean on the Mineral Park history. It was put in production for a number of years for the 90s and early 2000s, and put on care and maintenance for low prevailing commodity prices. And so copper, moly and silver are a lot higher than they were 10, 15 years ago. And so we look forward to seeing Mineral Park get back into production soon. So we define critical minerals as basically the periodic table. And so the luxury for us is, we're going to have exposure to the better part of half a dozen different metals in the periodic table, so gold and silver, indium, gallium, potentially barium, zinc and lead and so on. So it's a big system. I think once we broaden the definition of critical minerals, and as we're all learning now, is that it's far more broader than some sort of metals that currently get quoted. So I think for us we're in a really good position. I think access to infrastructure, and then hopefully finding some really cheap, low-cost ways of monetizing, and so that's processing pathways. That'll include hopefully the support the US government is currently giving to refining capacity, and that'll help us have a home for Golconda offtake and so on. So the other strategic position for Golconda is we don't have any offtake committed with anyone, so that's really valuable. And so the opportunity for us is to make sure the resource is quality, of size and scale, then have a quality reserve, and then I think there's a definite path to market. Sure. We've always been very focused on managing our capital, and I think you'll find that from IPO in August of 2021 until now, we've kept a really good handle on that. For us, the intention is making sure every dollar we spend, drives value, whether that's drilling, met work, test work, and so on. So the finance we completed late in 2025 is funded us for all the activity that I've just spoken about. So we've got core drilling at both Whitecaps and at Golconda, significant RC program coming up for about 3 months worth of drilling at Golconda, and then potential MRE, and then that met work as well for Golconda for the gallium. So we're not currently in need of it. We've got lots of value propositions and value turns coming with news flow as well, and we think we're going to be fine for now.